and Katie had been having some marital problems and they had separated.
He's sending her what's referred to in the vernacular as pics, and she's sending him pictures of her breasts.
He put his hands around her neck.
He panics, doesn't know what to do.
And who recovered Katie McLean's body from that swampy water.
What's a divorce? Doesn't want to be married.
A marriage on the rocks ends up with a wife dead in a pond. Her husband saying it was the result of a drunken fight. The murder trial of Dr. Ingolf Tuerk resumes this morning. And another doctor accused of attempted murder in Hawaii. Police say he tried to shove his wife off of a hiking trail, leaving her for dead. Also this hour, we're being a voice for victims in the case of a beloved fire captain allegedly murdered by her wife. The suspect is now hospitalized this morning, but some are questioning the validity, shall we say, of her injuries. Plus, new documents reveal Bryan Kohberger bought a mask before the Idaho student murders, and one of the survivors drew a picture of a similar mask. We've got a comparison for you in our studio this morning. It's all coming up next right here on Opening Statements. Good Friday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. We made it to the end of the week and we're not stopping yet. We've got a great show planned for you, so let's get to it. Grab your coffee or tea, whatever you like in the morning. It's time for my opening statement. He choked her before. He choked her a week before they got married. And it was again by choking her that he admittedly ended her life just 6 months later. I'm talking about the history and the pattern of domestic violence that police say existed in the relationship between Dr. Ingolf Tuerk and his wife, Katie McLean. Court records show that there was another instance about a month after they were married when he threw her onto the floor. She also got a protection from abuse order against him, but later requested that it be vacated. You know, when I look at these documented instances and what appears to be the cycle of domestic violence in this relationship, it makes me so sad that Katie McLean wasn't able to get out. The first time he choked her should have been the last time. Sadly, the violence escalated and Katie is no longer with us. And my friends, I have to tell you, it makes me sick that in our show today, we have 3 cases of alleged domestic violence. 3. And what does that tell you? It tells you it's that common. So my friends, if you're currently experiencing this, please know that there is help for you to get out safely. There are professionals who can help you for free get out safely. Because if somebody hurts you once, they're not going to hesitate to hurt you again. Know that your situation has the potential to be lethal if you don't get help to safely get out. That's my advice and my opening statement this morning. Let me know if you like it. Right now, I want to give you your daily docket.
There is a history, a symbiotic relationship between Ms. Reed and Mr. Kearney. There is a history of documented evidence showing the sharing of discovery between the parties.
In Massachusetts, we've got defendants Karen Reed and Aidan Carney, a.k.a. Turtle Boy. They've got a motions hearing this morning. Now, remember, what's at issue are the messages between them and whether they're going to be used in the prosecution against Karen Reed to show consciousness of guilt. That is the hope of the prosecutor. Right now, we have that scheduled for 11 a.m. We're being told we'll let you know if it happens any sooner. In Connecticut, we've got an arraignment hearing scheduled for defendant Kimberly Sullivan. Remember this lady? She's accused of holding her stepson captive for 20 years. Court's going to start up this morning in that case at 10 a.m., we're told. And in Michigan, we've got testimony resuming in the battered and burned murder trial for Linda Sturmer. She's accused of murdering her husband, Todd. That's going to start up at 9 a.m., and we'll go there live together when it does. Right now, let's talk about our top story, and that is the case of the surgeon who strangled his wife. Dr. Ingolf Tuerk in Massachusetts, on trial right now, accused of first-degree murder. Police say that after he killed his wife, Katie, he then dumped her body in a nearby pond. The trial kicked off on Thursday morning with some fiery opening statements. Take a look.
Kurt, I am sorry, brother, but she is a vindictive devil. I am really sorry, brother, but she manipulated us all. Love you, Harry. And Dr. Tuerk told the two male police officers that he strangled his wife, that he knew he killed her, that he panicked after he knew she was dead, and he carried her body out of the house.
We're going to see text messages with Kurt, and while Kurt was talking to him about trying to mediate between Katie McLean and Harry and trying to get things to work out, that he was sexting her, and she's responding. Ultimately, he's sending her what's referred to in the vernacular as pics, and she's sending him pictures of her breasts while she's in a bathtub. And this guy's going to be right up here on that witness stand. Can't wait.
Now, the day ended with testimony from Katie's close friend describing the alarming text messages that she got from a mutual friend named Kurt that caused her to worry about Katie's safety. So this morning, we're asking, what will we learn from Kurt? So he began his testimony on Thursday, and he's going to continue this morning. All right, let's talk about this. I want to bring in our legal eagles. So pleased to have on the show this Friday morning, Joe Tamburino and David Bruno. Good morning to you both. All right, so let's start with the opening statements. I want to know what you guys thought of those. Joe, would you start us off, please?
Good morning, Julie. Thanks for having me on. I thought the defense did a better job at opening than the state. I thought the state covered its bases, but it was pretty lackluster. The defense had a little bit of visuals, though sometimes he was clumsy with it. The only thing, though, that really stuck out in the defense is, obviously, this case isn't about self-defense. That's not it. What it's about is lesser included crimes. And he didn't really give us so much of a path through the defense's opening statement as to what lesser included crime that they want. But clearly what they're shooting for is some type of manslaughter. When the defense attorney got up there and said, look, this guy is so big, so strong, basically, when he grabbed her, she died. Well, he didn't get more specific than that, but then he started listing all these other crimes. So clearly they're going for a lesser included. This is not about self-defense. And obviously what you just hit upon too, Julie, before is all of the prior acts. So that's going to become an issue as well.
Yeah, you're so right, Joe. Thank you for that. We heard her good friend testify. She was a great witness and talked about that restraining order that Katie had. And we know Katie wanted it to be vacated as they kept going up and down, trying to reconcile and then separate and reconcile all of that. David, your thoughts about how this case kicked off and the impressions you got from each side so far?
Yeah, sure. And thanks for having me. You know, when I was in the prosecutor's office in the major crimes unit, we had a saying, today's domestic violence is tomorrow's homicide. And you nailed it. You nailed it with the cycle of domestic violence, where there's that incident, and then there's the apology and the calm, and then the tension, and then the incident. That's the domestic violence that we all talk about here. So any victims out there, please get help. Certainly the lackluster, you know, the theatrics, we'll put that aside. I want to talk about the evidence of what we intend to hear. And when you talk about strangulation, and this is how this victim died, you're going to see medical evidence in the body, the petechia, the hemorrhaging, all of the pieces of evidence that the medical examiner is going to testify to that is indicative of strangulation. That is an act that's very different than some of the other ways of murder. And then finally, consciousness of guilt, Julie. How many times do we see this, that after the incident conduct that leads us to showing guilt? And here he dumped the body in a lake, and not only dumped the body in the lake, but he put rocks in her clothing, in the pockets, just to get her to settle down in the bottom. So that after conduct of consciousness of guilt is going to be very important for the state.
Yeah, really great points, David. Thank you for all of that. I have a couple clips of testimony, and this is from Katie's dear friend who overall was an excellent witness for the Commonwealth. And here you're going to hear brought up that friend Kurt, and we know his name came up in the opening statements and some of those text messages that were a bit salacious and the sexting that the defense team was talking about. Let's take a listen to some of what she said on direct and then on cross.
Is that the text that you received from Kurt that morning?
Yes.
And what does it say?
Kurt, I am sorry, brother, but she is a vindictive devil. She played us all. I am really sorry, brother, but she manipulated us all.
And the joke was what? That you were going to be a spy for her?
I remember a joke like that, yes.
Okay. What did you mean?
It's just a joke.
Like what? I don't get the joke. What joke? What was the joke?
It's just a joke between friends.
Okay, and what was the joke?
That if you know where someone is and you are spending time with them, that you would, tell them what you saw.
Okay, so a little sampling there. So Kurt, for anybody just joining the program, the long and short of it is the defense is talking about how Kurt would sext with Katie, Dr. Tuerk's wife, but Kurt was also Dr. Tuerk's buddy too. So I don't know who's playing whom here. We see in the message it's Tuerk saying that Katie's the one manipulating. Joe, what do you think about some of this drama? Does it have any bearing on the facts? Your take, please.
Yes, it always has bearing on the facts because the facts come out, of course they do. The jury has to consider those facts. But as we've talked about many times on the show, a courtroom is theater. And this case really has Shakespearean type of drama. I mean, think of it. You've got this doctor, very well-known doctor, who was born, I think, in 1961 in East Germany. He was 26 years old when the wall came down in 1989. I'm 61. I'm old enough to remember that clearly. I was watching the whole thing. Grew up in a totalitarian state and then becomes an amazing surgeon. Comes to the United States, lives the best life ever. And then all of a sudden, we know that he has domestic abuse issues, starts with the relationship with Ms. McLean. I mean, really, this is Shakespearean in its drama. So yes, drama will always influence facts. Why? Because we're human beings. The way we absorb facts depends upon how it's done. So yes, sometimes drama will skew it. But in the end, even the defense is talking about, as we know in their opening statements, that they want a lesser included. This isn't a whodunit. This isn't self-defense. It's basically how guilty is he.
Joe, that story you just told was awesome. That's exactly what his defense team should have done in the open. Talk about what you just said, the American dream. This guy became the American dream, a living proof of it and how it can work here if you do everything right. And then where did things go south, right? I appreciate that so much, that story, and we'll see if they can effectively get that across. I have a feeling they're going to present a defense. I just get that feeling that they're not going down without a fight. And speaking of what you said, the lesser included, pinpointing that issue is so key, Joe. Thank you. David, tell us, what chance do you think realistically Ingolf Tuerk has to possibly get, ideally, as Joe said, he's going to want manslaughter, but even second-degree murder here? What do you think the possibility is?
Yeah, sure. It goes right to the mens rea of the actor at the time of the crime. And what the prosecutor's saying is it's premeditated, that it's purposeful, that it was intentional, that he was intending to kill at the time. What the defense is saying is, this is reckless because of the situation. And this is where that extramarital relationship comes in. It goes to this passion. It's passion provocation, like negating it down to recklessness, lack of premeditation. But I think that the understanding of this extramarital relationship is going to be important as to when. It wasn't an adequate provocation, because oftentimes we talk about, was he acting under a passion, at the time? Did he learn about it shortly before? What were the emotions shortly before the murder? And that's where the defense is going to try to argue that it was passion provocation, negating the purposeful or premeditated arguments of the state.
Oh, that's so key. David, that was beautiful. That was professorial, the way you explained that. Yeah, and we may find out this morning when Kurt, the friend, gets on the stand and continues. Maybe we'll find out if Ingolf Tuerk found those photos that were explicit maybe that night, and maybe that's how the fight started. Don't know. I'm so happy we have you both on the show. You guys are the best. Joe Tamburino, David Bruno, stand by, please. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, here's what's coming up this Friday morning on Opening Statements.
Law enforcement partners, both in the United States and in Mexico, who collaborated to bring the defendant back here so that the victim's family can start that process to justice.
We're being a voice for victims. California Fire Captain Becky Marodi was murdered. Her wife arrested after fleeing to Mexicali. But guess where she was arraigned from? From a hospital bed. Why? We'll talk about it. Plus, a Hawaii doctor allegedly tries to kill his wife by pushing her off a busy hiking trail. We're asking, why pick this popular tourist spot?
The jury was sequestered for 9 months.
These people were too beat down to even try to fight for their own conviction.
Trial and Error. Why did O.J. win? Season finale Sunday night, 8 Eastern and Pacific. Only on Court TV.
It's a whodunit Hollywood story.
Monica Cimentelli is accused of plotting to kill her husband, celebrity hairstylist Fabio Cimentelli.
The celebrity stylist murder trial continues Tuesday on Court TV.
Now for what's trending in true crime, police have arrested a doctor who allegedly tried to push his wife off of a popular hiking trail in Honolulu before police say bashing her across the head with a rock. Anesthesiologist Gerhard Koenig is now in custody, accused of second-degree attempted murder. Monday, police responded to a report of a male beating a female near a particular trail, the Palipuka Trail Lookout Point. The 46-year-old doctor was arrested some hours later after police say he initially fled the scene. So who is Dr. Gerhard Koenig? Well, he's a doctor with the Anesthesia Medical Group in Hawaii. He was formerly an assistant professor of anesthesiology and bioengineering at the University of Pittsburgh. The Pali Lookout sits over 1,000 feet above the coastline with beautiful views of the surrounding cliffs. And this is a really popular tourist attraction, as you can imagine, because of its sights. Now, we're asking, of all locations, why this famous trail for that alleged attempt at murder? Let's bring in our power panel. Still with me, attorneys Joe Tamburino and David Bruno, and I want to welcome in now private investigator Manuel Gomez. All right, Manuel, let me begin with you. Would you kick off our discussion, please? Why that particular lookout, in your opinion?
Well, the lookout was because of the altitude. That's one. He was picking a perfect spot to drop her off, and a spot that should most likely be recovered. And two, this case proves premeditation because of that syringe that he bought. So the syringe, the location, the altitude was all to the premeditation of his intent to kill her. And this wasn't his first time of abusing her. There's no doubt in my mind investigators will go back and search and find that there was a history of domestic violence, not only in this relationship, but in his past relationships. And there's no doubt in my mind on that.
Appreciate it, Manuel. Maui Memorial Medical Center released this statement saying that we have been made aware of the allegations against Gerhard Koenig, MD. Dr. Koenig's medical staff privileges at Maui Memorial Medical Center have been suspended pending investigation. Okay, I suppose no surprise there with that. David Bruno, what do you say, please?
The flight, once again, where we see consciousness of guilt. This man not only did what he did, but he ran, he fled, and he also fled from police. But unlike some of our other cases, we have a surviving victim here, thank God. And she'll be able to get on that stand and testify to exactly what he did. And then we have these injuries, like the investigator said, there's the syringe that goes to consciousness, it goes to the intent. Because look, these attempted murder cases are pretty difficult for prosecutors, believe it or not. Because ultimately the defense gets up there and says, look, if there was an intention to kill, then why isn't the victim dead? So the prosecutor needs to show the premeditation, needs to show the actions, needs to show the consciousness of guilt to get and show that that was an attempted murder.
All right, great points, David. Thank you for that. As you noted, I mean, just thank God this woman is alive and survived this, stable this morning. And what a fighter she is. We were talking about this morning in our newsroom, Joe, how remarkable it is that she survived everything that police say she went through. Your thoughts, please, on the whole thing, this guy, the location, and then also where the case may be headed.
Well, I'm going to take a little bit of a different tack than the other two guests. I don't know if this was planned out. Yes, the syringes are problematic, but we don't know the circumstances of the syringes. He's a doctor. I know he's an anesthesiologist. So does he carry some type of fanny pack or some type of pack where he has who knows what kind of medication with him just in case something happens? That's possible. Because the trail that he picked is very popular. There's people all over the place. And it seems from what the victim says, and thank God she survived this, all of a sudden he gets really angry with her because he's close to the ledge and she doesn't like him that close to the ledge and she doesn't want to take a picture of him. And then he just loses it. So it seems to me that there is a credible argument that this guy, and I agree with one of your guests about how he probably has prior domestics, this guy, it could be, has prior domestics, has an anger problem, and simply just loses it on his wife while they're on the hiking trail because she won't take a picture of him. So there could be that argument.
Yeah, that's a great point, Joe. You know, and looking at the charging, you've really got me thinking now. They charged attempted second degree, not attempted first degree. Right. So, you know, underscoring your point there. Excellent. Thank you. So let's talk about another aspect of this. So the victim, 36 years old, she was taken to a local hospital in Hawaii. She's serious, but thank God stable this morning, as I mentioned. And one of the hikers told police that she heard the victim yelling for help. According to the affidavit, the victim told the hiker that, quote, he is trying to kill me. Those were her words, according to this witness. And the affidavit also says that she saw her husband apparently taking out syringes with the intent of using them on her. So she says she witnessed that, and police say she was able to get away from him after nearly 10 strikes, 10 to her head. She suffered serious head and facial injuries. My goodness, it's remarkable that she survived, but she did. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fight she went through and her injuries and how the injuries are going to tell the story. Let's bring back in the power panel. Manuel Gomez, back to you. Your thoughts on this, please.
I have to say, the reason why he ran was because of those blood-curdling screams that she was letting out. Again, I believe that this case will show that there was a past history of domestic violence. This wasn't the ideal, perfect marriage as it's portrayed as. But I also have to commend the most speedy reaction I've seen in quite some time by the Honolulu police. Oh my God, Julie, they had his picture up on the news within minutes. And this guy, they were shutting down the area within 3 to 4 hours. He was all over the place. I mean, this was the best police reaction I've seen in quite some time and sets a standard for all police departments to follow.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Manuel. Appreciate it. Joe Tamburino, want to go back to you. What do you think about the injuries, how that'll tell the story, and also how it seems like we're going to have this woman's testimony?
Well, the injuries seem to me, again, because all of a sudden he just got angry. And like what we just talked about with them charging, you know, not premeditation, but an intent. And then all of a sudden he just starts striking his wife because he's just severely angry at her. But I agree with Manuel. I think the reason why he ran is because she fought back and started screaming. And again, it's such a popular trail. I mean, this is just a short drive from Honolulu. There are many people who use this trail because they've got beautiful views of the ocean, the Pacific Ocean. So that's another thing that goes to, did he really plan it? Well, he picked an awful spot to try to do a murder because everyone's going to see it. So I agree with Manuel. He was hitting her on the head. She fights back, which was probably unexpected. And then when she starts screaming, he knows the jig is up and he's got to get out of there.
Definitely. A great point, Joe. We'll leave this case here for now. Every good wish to the doctor's wife as she continues her recovery, and we'll report any more developments with the story. Joe, we're going to see you when Court TV Live begins. Looking forward to that. David and Manuel, stand by, please. After the break, here's what's still to come on opening statements.
She was stolen from us at a time when we need more fire captain roadies in our world.
She's the only firefighter I've ever seen, Mom, wake up with wool socks on her hands.
So much love for slain California Fire Captain Becky Marody, as now things are moving ahead with a criminal case against her wife. She was just arraigned and from a hospital room. Why? We'll talk about that as some people are questioning her injuries. But first, we know there was a knife purchased on Amazon, and now we're being told a black mask like this one you see here. Don't be afraid. This guy's really nice. I know him. This is Court TV's senior producer, Eric Goldson, helping us out with our next segment. We're talking about Bryan Kohberger and what he bought from Amazon before the Idaho student murders. Be right back. Welcome back. This morning, we're giving a voice to victims like Becky Marody, the decorated California fire captain who was murdered in her home, allegedly by her wife. The suspect, Yolanda Marody, is now in custody, captured across the border in Mexicali after spending a month in the wind. She was arraigned from her hospital room. More now from Scripps News San Diego's Laura's Acevedo.
Yolanda Marody appeared in court from a hospital bed Wednesday, pleading not guilty to the murder of her wife, Cal Fire Captain Rebecca Marody. A judge ordered us not to show her face, but we saw her lying down, connected to oxygen. The judge denied her bail, citing what he called the extreme violence in this case, revealing Captain Marody had 34 stab or slash wounds, also citing Yolanda's previous criminal history, having been convicted of voluntary manslaughter for killing her then husband in the year 2000. Captain Marody's mother and other family and friends present for the arraignment.
I am grateful to our law enforcement partners, both in the United States and in Mexico, who collaborated to bring the defendant back here so that the victim's family can start that process to justice.
The deputy district attorney couldn't comment on why Yolanda was in the hospital, but afterwards, a family friend of Captain Marody's told me she questions Yolanda's motives and whether or not anything is actually medically wrong with her. On Tuesday, the Cal Fire Captain's family and friends gathered for her celebration of life.
I know that somewhere she's laughing that infectious laugh, probably telling inappropriate jokes to St. Peter and waiting for the rest of us to catch up.
If convicted, Yolanda Marody faces 25 years to life in prison. Her next court date is set for late April. In El Cajon, Laura Acevedo, ABC 10 News.
Lots of questions here. Let's start with why her face had to be pixelated with the video and the court saying we can't show her from the hospital room. Let's bring in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor David Bruno on this. David, people have questions because, as you know, when this lady was captured in Mexicali and she was handed over to U.S. Marshals, she looked fine. We have video of that. It didn't appear that anything was wrong with her. Let's show the video now. And feel free to comment over this as we watch it together, David. What do you think maybe why the judge didn't want her face broadcast?
Just caution. I mean, she's in a treatment facility, right? I mean, there's some physician-patient privileges that we talk about with communications, and the fact that she's in the hospital, maybe. I mean, I think there's a lot of discretion that went into that particular decision. Julie, I had a similar situation. When I was a prosecutor, we were investigating the death of a priest, and the janitor of the particular school came back the next day and feigned some medical event as well. He was brought to the hospital, and we followed the evidence all the way to his house, where we found bloody towels and a knife, and then went to interview him, getting a confession later in the hospital. So maybe the feigning of these particular issues on this particular defendant, but again, she fled consciousness of guilt in a month since the particular murder. So I can't see how this medical issue is going to play out in the particular murder case.
Right. How about that issue spotting? You're doing a brilliant job this morning, David, with that, with the consciousness of guilt. You've pointed out in 3 of our cases this morning, all 3.
Yep.
And all domestic violence cases. These facts are very telling, and the behaviors. I have a clip for you. This is a beautiful clip. This is how friends of Captain Becky Marody were remembering her at her funeral.
Well, Becky wasn't the first woman to put on turnouts and get the job done. She was one that did it. She did it very well. She did it her way.
She taught us that heroism isn't just in the flames. It's in the way you show up for people every single day.
She's the only firefighter I've ever seen, Mom, wake up with wool socks on her hands. I think she had every stitch of clothes in her day bag on.
I know that somewhere she's laughing that infectious laugh, probably telling inappropriate jokes to St. Peter and waiting for the rest of us to catch up.
So mourn as we must, but then let's get back out there and, for Becky, kick up some dust.
Yeah, she's the victim. She's the victim. Becky Marody, that's who we want to focus on, not Yolanda Marody, except for just discussing how she's going to be prosecuted. David Bruno, you've done many, many cases as a prosecutor. How do you foresee this one going?
Yeah, just look at that package. I mean, this is a life of impact. This is a life of service. I'm a big proponent of doing hard things. All right? Oftentimes, fear keeps us back from ultimate growth and improvement in our lives and our careers. And this particular woman, look at this. She rose to the level of captain as a service woman, going into fires and saving people. We've seen all the devastating fires in California, throughout the country, and it just makes me think of impact and service of this woman, and I applaud her.
Yeah, you're so right, David. She is who's going to be remembered in all this. Becky Marody is going to be remembered for all the reasons you stated, being a real-life hero. Her wife, maybe the prosecution will be pretty non-remarkable, you know. I mean, maybe this will wind up a plea.
Prior conviction, too.
Mm-hmm.
The prior
yeah.
conviction.
She stabbed her husband, her former husband. Yolanda Marody did that, and so we'll see if she goes to trial on this. David, thank you for the insight. And as we take a look at this photo on our wall where we remember the victims and put the focus on the victims, this morning we want to send love and light to Becky Marody's family. She was always a positive person. Her family and friends say she was always smiling like she is in this picture. She devoted her life to service and protecting others. Captain, we salute you. We'll be right back.
30 years later, and I remember...
Where was I when O.J. Simpson was found not guilty?
I became obsessed with Court TV.
And we all said it, if the glove don't fit, if it doesn't fit,
you must quit.
Senior year of high school, this guy at the top of the bleachers screams, O.J.'s innocent.
Such a divisive verdict.
You could hear the gasp. My jaw dropped.
Relive the verdict, trial and error. Why did O.J. win? Season finale Sunday night, 8 Eastern and Pacific, only on Court TV.
Now for what's tipping the scales of justice, we've got some bombshell new details in the Idaho student murders case. According to court documents, accused killer Bryan Kohberger allegedly purchased a black balaclava mask from Dick's Sporting Goods 10 months before the murders. You might remember a key witness, one of the surviving roommates named Dylan Mortensen, saw a man wearing the same type of face mask at the home where Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, Xana Cornoto, and Ethan Chapin were slaughtered. Now, Mortensen also drew a picture of the mask that the man was wearing. Look at this. We took this from one of the court filings from the defense team. She drew it when she was interviewed back in December of 2022. Now, it may be hard to visualize what this would look like on a person by that drawing. So here's what we did at Court TV. We purchased one of these from Amazon, a black balaclava mask being modeled by Court TV's senior producer, Eric Goldson, who is a lovely guy. He is not scary at all, but look how scary he looks in this mask. My goodness. Eric, I'll vouch for you. I'll vouch for you. You are the quintessential gentleman, and that mask is going to tip the scales because it looks scary in our studio, and I can't imagine how these victims must have felt. And how Dylan Mortensen must have felt seeing this guy walking through her home wearing that mask. Let's talk about how it's going to tip the scales. I'm going to bring in criminology expert, author, and professor Dr. Debbie Goodman, and private investigator with Black Ops Private Investigations, and also military veteran Manuel Gomez. Dr. Debbie, to you first, please, your thoughts on the evidence that Bryan Kohberger purchased this mask.
Game over, Julie. It's a game over status for Bryan Kohberger. Why? Because this type of face mask is what these individuals do. We call it part of their toolbox or toolkit, if you will. And so now we have a knife sheath, this face mask. And Julie, there are 3 essential reasons why an individual would bring that item along to a crime scene. First of which is to conceal one's identity. The second of which is what I'll refer to as CPA, to garner a heightened sense and to be emboldened with control, power, authority over the victims. And the third of which you mentioned at the introduction, and that is to create a heightened level of fear, panic, anxiety, shock among those who would see it, thereby formulating more of a compliant type of behavior among the victims so that they would acquiesce to the killer's demands. So I think it's game over for him. And the irony to this, Julie, is that what he prides himself on most is his intellect, and yet it'll be the intellect that will lead to his demise. He's simply not as smart as he thought he was, or as smart as what he wanted to be.
Such sharp analysis from you, as always, Dr. Debbie. I want to dovetail off of something you just said, the intellect aspect of this. According to what prosecutors are saying, Bryan Kohberger was studying in his criminology program about how to approach a murder scene as a detective would, so as not to contaminate any scene evidence. And so, Dr. Debbie and Manuel, I want to go to you both on different aspects of this question. Dr. Debbie, is that typical in a criminology program? Why is that important, if it is typical, for a student to learn about detectives and contamination?
Right. Well, what I think is very important as it relates to this case, Julie, is it's really speaking to what we refer to as mens rea, scienter, the criminal mindset of what an individual is thinking. And then secondarily, of course, we couple it with the actus reus. So yes, there's research, there's presentation, there's writing at all levels across the curricula, bachelor's, master's, doctoral. However, I would submit that this really gives us a glimpse into this individual's mindset and the planning, the preparation, and the purpose of why ultimately now I think he was studying criminology and criminal justice, to learn how to commit murder and to learn how to potentially get away with it.
Dr. Debbie, thank you. That's a fascinating take, and I'm sure there are many trial watchers who may agree with that take based on all the evidence we're seeing in the totality. I've got in my hands the kind of knife that he bought from Amazon, and apparently he was searching for a replacement knife as well after the homicides. And take a look at it. When I pull it out, it's huge. It's absolutely enormous. And when you think about contamination at the scene, we know that the sheath was left behind and there was touch DNA, Bryan Kohberger's DNA, left on the snap of this knife sheath, or one like this knife sheath that I have in my hand. So Manuel Gomez, going to you now for the second part of this question. This guy's reportedly studying how not to contaminate a scene with respect to how detectives like you would do it when you're investigating a homicide. In all your years, Manuel, have you ever seen a perpetrator be able to leave a scene with nothing behind, no contamination whatsoever?
No, unfortunately, Julie, on all my murder investigations, everybody makes one mistake and leaves one piece of evidence behind. But I have to agree with Dr. Debbie, and that is that his intellect is going to be his downfall. The fact that he did the homework on how a detective walks through a crime scene without disturbing the evidence shows his premeditation to commit this crime, so that when he commits the murder, he knew how to protect himself and what not to do. But the fact that he investigated that shows his premeditation, the mask. And unfortunately, that knife you lifted up is the very same knife I carried in Afghanistan and in Desert Storm. It's a K-bar. It's designed for killing. It's extremely reliable, and it proves his premeditation. Again, this guy, like all other serial killers, brilliant, but stupid. He made a stupid mistake. His DNA was left behind. But there is one flip side to this, and that is, unfortunately, the crime scene was contaminated. And that's where the defense is going to come after the prosecution.
Wow. Manuel, thank you for your service, for the tremendous service work you've done for our country. I can't imagine carrying this. And this is hard to hold. This is uncomfortable and awful to hold. I can't even imagine someone doing those homicides with it and then walking out of the house with it, because we know this was never found in the Idaho student murders case. To conceal it, I can't imagine what that was like. Dr. Debbie, final question to you, please, on Dylan Mortensen, the surviving housemate who saw this person walking out wearing dark clothing, wearing that type of mask that we just learned Bryan Kohberger purchased from Amazon. How key is her testimony going to be when it comes to making an identification? Because we know she said bushy eyebrows, but beyond that, you can't see much of the face, can you, Dr. Debbie? Your thoughts on how we can get the ID in this case?
Thank you. I think it's very important, Dylan's approach to what happened. She can only tell the truth, not to elaborate nor to negate what she saw. So I think it's still very important, Julie, that she sees an individual at or near 6 feet tall wearing this type of face mask with the bushy eyebrows. It's all coming together, Julie. So this, again, is the totality of colossal errors that this individual made. And I can assure you, he is ruminating about it all because he is likely with obsessive compulsive disorder. And so from the knife sheath left behind with his DNA, to the phone pings, to the white Elantra on surveillance, to the selfie and the face mask and the knife sheath and the knife sharpener, it is game over. All of this together is going to lead to his demise.
Such brilliant analysis from you both. I could listen to you two all day. Dr. Debbie Goodman, Manuel Gomez, thank you so much for your insight and your expertise on this case. We'll continue following it. Any new developments, we will report them here. And that is all for opening statements, my friends. Thank you for being with us on this Friday morning. Don't go anywhere. It's time for Court TV Live to begin. We got two huge trials. We'll take you live to next.